Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, the founder and CEO and all the rest of it of RecTools.io. If you don't know by now, you should do. RecTools is the largest whole-of-market directory of all your recruitment supply chains. So whether you're looking for a new CRM, a new website developer, whether you're looking for a new marketing outsource, whether you're looking for some automation software, maybe you're looking for some AI software, maybe you're looking for a timesheet provider, or maybe you're looking to get some advice and consultancy from somebody who knows what they're talking about, and I'll lean into that to you in a second. Head over to RecTools.io. It's free to use today, tomorrow, and always will be for you guys, recruitment business owners, talent acquisition teams, solo business owners, all the way through to enterprise clients. My guest today, you will know him from LinkedIn, from the Teams network, from the Recruitment Expo. He's everywhere. Anytime there's anything going on in the world of recruitment, he's there in his purple shirt. And yeah, he's gracing RecTalk today to really go through kind of the common mistakes made by recruitment business owners. So Stewart, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I know it's sort of taking time out of your busy schedule from popping up here, there and everywhere. So mate, thank you first of all for popping over to us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go straight for it. Mayachi is a combination of...
well, the name comes from my son's name and my daughter's name. My son was probably my very early part of my journey within the recruitment industry, where my first job was working within an umbrella company. And then Maya, who is my 2-year-old daughter, is kind of from the new part of my recruitment journey with Mayachi. So I just thought the two names together kind of showed the full side, and want it to be a business that kind of feels a bit more family orientated. Yeah. So
this is your why, right? So
that's it, exactly.
No, I like that. So look, on that topic of it's your why, I think this year has been really tough, right? By the time this episode goes out, we're probably knocking on kind of towards the end of the year now. It's been incredibly tough for people, and they've had to really kind of remember their why. And yes, some of it is market conditions and economical conditions and the pestle stuff that we think and get taught as sort of, budding entrepreneurs. But you've watched, grown and supported the growth of and exited or supported the exits of multiple recruitment agencies. So you're probably best placed to sit here and kind of tell us about some of the common mistakes that recruitment businesses make or business owners make when they are trying to get started and when they're going through that growth period, and sometimes when things aren't going so right, having to scale back. And I'd really like to sort of spend the next sort of half an hour or so unpicking some of those. Yeah. Because I think some of the things you're going to say is going to really resonate with the audience, which will be, shit, that's me, right? Yeah. I think it was this time last year where I spoke to a fellow business owner who was kind of who introduced me to the concept of a zombie business. It ain't dead, but it ain't alive either. Yeah. And I was sort of like, shit, man. Yeah, that's us. That's been us for the last 12 months. Yeah. And those little things, I think, really help people kind of assess where they are. So, look, over to you. Tell us about kind of your background a little bit, set the scene, and then let's go into...
Yeah. Well, I've been now in the recruitment industry for 24 years, but never as a recruiter. I've never actually been a recruiter, but I have been the back office side of recruitment agencies for all that time. So originally started out in umbrella, so not actually processing the payroll. I was working. It's quite a funny story. I started off by filling in corporation tax returns and sending them off to HMRC back in the day pre IR35. Oh. Thing was, as I was working for a company, we had every company set up as their own limited company, and we had 3,000 corporation tax returns to send out. I came into the business as a bit of a junior and said, you've got to send all these out, and that will take you 2 or 3 months. But I did the whole lot in 2 weeks by finding out the best process by ringing up HMRC, doing it all by electronic transfer rather than by checks, and then sending them all out in boxes of 100 at a time. And so my boss at the time turned around and said, you're someone who actually can help us. And so I was working within the umbrella market to actually try and improve processes and systems within the company, developing an international solution for umbrella as well. So we were one of the first ones to do a kind of UK umbrella in that side. And then it kind of developed into the back office and funding side. So we ran a pay and bill solution. I then left and I went to work actually in the back office of an agency. So actually cut my teeth in an agency running the back office of at the time they were an IT recruitment agency looking to move into medical. There was 11 staff, there were about 2 million turnover. But during that 5-year period, I helped grow that business to kind of a 15 million turnover. We were looking after 600 nurses at the time using a payroll system that I'd built and was very successful. And they've gone on to sort of grow further since then. But I was then approached by my old boss from where I was working previously and we set up a back office and accountancy firm, which worked very successfully and grew that over a 13-year period. And then, we managed to sell that. So I went through the sales process. But during that time, we helped over 250 to 300 clients. Some of them were very successful. Some of them were not so successful. But it was mainly aimed at that kind of new start recruitment agency market. With up to our largest was probably nearly 20 million turnover. And it was really nice to see some of those people who started off as that one-person company from their back room.
Remembering the first conversation you had with this person.
That's it, yeah.
About dreams, hopes and ambitions. And
that's it, and helping them to grow. And, there was many a time I had a conversation with people and they would say, look, I've got an investor who wants to come in with me. And I would kind of say, well, look, you're going to lose a portion of your company if you go down the investment route. I believe you're strong enough and you can do this yourself. And I actually met up with one of them about 8 months ago and sort of, he said, look, thanks so much, Stuart, for making me not go down the route of having an investor, because that investor, at this point, his business is now 36 million turnover.
You won't remember this, but you gave me the same advice.
Yeah.
I was speaking to, it was yourself, Max Jones, and in the end we went with 3R. Yeah. But at the time we were also speaking to investors.
Yeah.
And it was, you were the only one that kind of put it in simple enough terms for my stupid mind to get it, which was kind of like, look, if you look at what you think your business is going to do, what do you think it's going to be worth? You don't know how these things work, but I can tell you your business is going to be worth this amount of money, and you're giving 25% of that away for what?
Yeah. Well, it could be even more. That's what.
Yeah, this is right. Yeah. And it was like for the comfort, and this was my scenario was for the comfort of a salary for a year.
That's it. Or it's a case of they might offer you a website and a database and things like that. But when you weigh up the cost of that in that initial term, you could go out there and you could use some initial, maybe, use a credit card or a loan or go to family and use that money and actually be a little bit lean, a little bit tight for that first year. But after that first year, you will then know that all the money that you're making is your money, and you're not having to go, right, I've made £100,000 this year, I've actually got to give £50,000 away. The year after you make £500,000, you'd have to give 250,000. And all they've done is they've given you maybe that initial help and advice. Sometimes as well, the advisory kind of drops off as well, and also then the services they're providing you might not necessarily be something you need anymore. So, I do think there is a place for those kind of products out there.
Yeah, some people need the because again, by contrast, and you'd have heard this a lot, right? A lot of the times I used to speak to fellow business owners when we were just the two of us. It used to be, man, it's so lonely, you guys are lucky because you've got each other to bounce off, but I haven't even got that.
Yeah.
And there's this like kind of real keen desire to have some sort of camaraderie, and I suppose that's why the networks like team network and stuff do so well, that's right? But there's a lot of different moving parts to consider.
Yeah, but again, I would say, as you said before, about the engaging consultancies and things like that. I said people such as myself who now my service is providing a sounding board for a lot of recruiters. A lot of my, although I'm there as a kind of a fractional CFO or a fractional FD nowadays, and you only, it's only based on whenever you see me, but that time is quite often not just spent talking about their management accounts. It's not just talk about their business growth. It's sometimes just to go, am I doing it right? Am I doing it the way that the other agencies are doing? Are they doing something that I should be doing? And because I'm seeing quite a wide range of different clients, from the larger size to the smaller size, the brand new startups to the people looking to sell, it's making sure that actually the whole time that they're getting the best possible advisory service. And that does have a knock-on effect to their finances. You don't want to have it that actually they do the wrong things at the wrong time.
It's funny how recruiters recruitment business owners are very much like that, in that literally today I was on a call with Jim Beresford, from Vonk, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, well, I used to work for the REC, and we had a whole room of recruiters in during, this is sort of 2011, times are really tough, you know, and everyone's kind of looking at each other, and then, you know, it was sort of like, I had to get the conversation started because nobody was sharing how things go. How's it going? Yep, good. Yep, fine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he was like, a handful of people started showing a bit of vulnerabilities and, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, that everyone was sort of like, well, what's that? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I get asked a lot, oh, well, what are the other people doing then? Or
That's it.
you speak to a lot of recruitment agencies and recruitment businesses. What are they doing? How are they doing so well?
Yeah. Or how are they finding it? Or, you know, what techniques are they doing that I could potentially be using? And I, you know, people don't mind sharing in some way. It's a case of there is no magic formula that's out there at the moment. Everyone is making mistakes. Everyone's making some good moves and some bad moves. It's a case of hopefully if we can minimize the bad moves, then more people will be successul. But it only comes from actually talking about what you're actually doing and how you're going to grow.
That you're doing the bad. Like what you're doing is considered to be a bad move, right? There's, I mean, when I ran my recruitment agency, we did things that we thought was the right thing to do, which in hindsight was the complete opposite of what we should have been doing. But at the time, you convince yourself that this is the right thing. Let's unpick some of those then. So if I was to go, look, what are the top 3 mistakes that you think a startup recruitment agency will, you know, often make that leads to an eventual issue?
I think probably the biggest one is that recruitment directors wear too many hats.
Okay.
So they do come in and they try and they're making the tea, the coffee. They're also doing the invoicing. They're doing their credit control. They're doing the recruiting. They're trying to manage staff and they're trying to do the IT setup and all of that. It's outsource as much as possible. If you don't,
but that comes at a cost. And so if you're...
It's surprising on how cheap it is when you kind of weigh it up against the time factor and against how actually these pricing models actually do work nowadays. You know, the ways of, again, it's you have to kind of put a value on your own time. Even as a recruitment director, you have to turn around and say, my time is £150 an hour. So if I do invoicing and credit control for an hour, is that a good use of my time? Or actually, I could have made more than £150 during that time, but it's going to cost me at least 150 quid in some respect. So what you got to do is you got to weigh up your own cost. So if you're a perm recruiter and you're doing placements of 20 grand a time, and you can do one of those a week, but half your time is being spent doing stuff that isn't recruitment, you're really cutting yourself off. You're really kind of making yourself, why not spend some of that money?
There's your budget.
That's it.
There, you've carved out that budget there, right? How much of it do you think is then procrastination, though, and kind of putting off doing the things that make you money because... Do you know what I mean? 'Cause I know that was what it was for me.
Yeah.
I've fallen out with love with recruitment very, very kind of very soon after the pandemic. And by this point, we're in an office space that is bigger than what we needed. I've got staff. I've got a business partner who, you know, had a hard on for being Mrs. Trunchbull at the front of the class sort of thing. And I was like, right, do you know what? The coffee machine's broken. I'll go fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, the servers need resetting and this needs doing it. I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Just anything to not have to sit on the phones and on the desk.
But I think if you set it up correctly with the right providers, then there is no room for procrastination.
Yeah.
Or actually, if you are procrastinating, you're actually doing nothing.
Yeah.
Rather than actually you're using it as an opportunity to do something else. But I think if you're going to run a business, you've got to really put your it's got to be more than 100% into the business. And that first years, especially, you're going to be working more hours. You're going to be making more time and things like that. Unless actually you can, unless you're really, really lucky and you're falling into that you've got clients who are going to be giving you business no matter what. If you've got a temp book that basically can run itself and you're just maintaining or something like that. But if you really want to grow a business, you've got to think about your exit plan. It's all about your exit plan. If your exit plan is just to have a lifestyle business where you're doing the same thing every single day and you want the same amount of money every single day, you're just providing it as a lifestyle business, that's fine. Go for it. But that will be your lifestyle business. But if you want to have a business that is having 30 staff, is 20 million turnover, and you want to sell for X amount of money, you've got to put the effort in and you've got to have a plan for that. And that, again, it comes down to you've probably got to call on an expert to actually be able to plan that out for you. You can't just sell your business. You can't just get to 6 years down the line and then just go, tomorrow I'm going to sell my business. There's going to be things you need to set in place beforehand. There's going to be, as you get along that journey, there's going to be the bumps in the road. There's going to be things like the pandemic was, yes, it was a bump in the road, but I look at the business I was running at the time, we plateaued, so which was really nice. We were showing 20% year-on-year growth, and then we went flat during that year. But it was only due to planning and making sure that we actually had a plan in place.
Contingency was there.
Rather than just, oh, well, I'll just give up. It was a case of you have to put your full effort into it. If you're a director of a business and you want the rewards, you've got to put the effort in.
I think you're saying something really key there, though, in that I think often gets missed, right, is that you got to know what your end goal is.
Yeah.
Whatever your exit strategy is, right? Are you going to do this until you die?
Yeah.
Or are you going to do this until you can't be asked to do it anymore?
Yeah.
Or are you going to do this until it's a sizable and return for you to take it to market and sell? Yeah. You got to know that at the start. And that one of the biggest mistakes we made was I went into business with somebody who wanted the grow, the scale, the exit.
Yeah.
And I wanted the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so we were already from the start being pulled in two different directions.
Yeah.
With every decision that he would make that would go towards that, I was kind of like, nah.
Yeah,
we'll do that ourselves.
I remember one recruitment agency was helping. It was two guys, very successful in their agency, came in, helped them set up, but it became very apparent within that first year that one of them wanted to take on staff, wanted to have an office, and the other guy was more, I want to be at home, I want to be with my family, I want to work from home, I want to take holidays whenever I like. And it just butted heads with each other. They were great friends, and they are still great friends, but they're now running two separate businesses. But you have to be aligned. If you are working as a partnership, and I think the more directors you have, the harder that alignment is. You know, I've seen people where they've had 4 directors, and then over a period of time, one goes and another goes, and then suddenly you're down to the 2 people that actually have the same alignment.
The core, yeah.
But it's a case of you've got to identify that quite quickly, because it can be quite costly, or it can cause animosity if it's done at a later stage. So I think, you having a plan.
You go too far off the path then, don't you?
Oh, definitely. And especially when it comes to hiring more staff, or if you want to grow that big, massive agency. Now, there's growing an agency to the point of, say, a 10-man office. And then there's the one where they go, well, I want a 100-man office. Yeah. And then there's the ones who go, I only want 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. It's all of those 3 have a different mindset, but they're all taking on staff. And so they might have all had at the beginning, right, okay, I want to take on staff, but not actually discussed to what scale they want to take on that amount of staff, and whether or not that's going to be experienced recruiters, whether it's going to be rookies, whether or not they're going to have everyone working from home. Is it going to be that everyone has to come in with 5 years experience? All of those things have different mindsets on how it's going to work.
It all comes down to, like you said, the strategy of how are we doing this, not the what are we doing, but how are we doing
and
it.
That's what I think is another mistake, is that people don't actually come up with a plan. Yes, it's a case though, they've worked for an agency, they've made a lot of money for that agency, they don't like the fact that a lot of that money's gone into their director's pocket as far as they're concerned. Mm-hmm. They want more of the money in their own pocket, they want to own something. Maybe that agency's grown to a size and they would never become a shareholder or a director of it. Maybe there's that they didn't like the culture or the way that business was being run. So setting up their own agency is their way out. Yeah. But actually, you could make those same mistakes of what the previous owners were doing, where you could have the wrong culture. You could be making a business in the wrong way. So planning it, speaking to people that have done it before is a really good idea, and find out what mistakes they made. As I said,
but that's easier said than done, though, isn't it? Especially when you've not been on the tools in the recruitment world, but I think, again, speaking from experience, the one of the key mistakes we made was that we were essentially replicating the model that worked for Michael Page.
Yeah,
we're not Michael Page. We're two lads from Coventry, right? But we're going down this hiring route of hiring grads, and we're going to train them. Yeah. Well, they've got in-house training teams. We ain't got that. They've got a series of directors and associate directors, and I can't believe they're not directors that are willing to spend time in coaching these people. We're 2 people. They ain't got that time. No. But you don't know.
And also, they had the backup of people who were there already that were still making the money during that time,
keeping that money coming in.
And if you only have rookies coming in, and all of those rookies fail, unfortunately, then that's a big cost for you, and you've still got no money coming in.
And that's unfair on the trainees that you're bringing in, because again, recruitment can be a very, very lucrative and good career for people.
Oh, definitely.
But as business owners, we let these guys down by bringing them into an environment that really they had no chance to survive in.
Well, I think also I always kind of, there isn't anyone really I've known where they've turned around to their careers advisor at school and said, I want to be a recruiter when I grow up. It's a case of it's always something you fall into.
Apparently they do in America.
Well, it doesn't surprise me.
In America and in India, this is what I've learned in my 2 years of doing this podcast. In America and in India, recruitment is a chosen profession.
Yeah.
It's a career choice.
But I don't think that's...
I don't know a single person in the UK that would say,
exactly.
I chose this.
Yeah. Although there's, I've got one of my clients at the moment, and he is someone who said, look, I used to have a friend of my brother's, I think it was, or something like that, and he was a recruiter. He was 3 or 4 years older than me, and I like the fact that he's making a load of money, and so I quite like the idea of doing that. And he's gone into that, and he's very, very good, and I'm helping him with his growth strategy. But again, it's not something I think he wanted to do from school, but he is really good at it. He makes a lot of money from it, and so there is a lot of money to be made from it. Is it a bit like maybe the kind of the footballers, kind of the, where actually you get to a certain age and it stops? I think actually if people can it's an ongoing career. I think it's something that can keep on going. Most of the time, people then move into obviously setting up their own business as a way of obviously elongating that and then bringing it onto the next journey, which I think is probably the best way to do it, really.
How soon, in your experience, then, do entrepreneurs and recruitment business owners need to stop working in the business and actually on the business? Because that's a key part of the sale, right? Or the exit.
Yeah. Well, I think it does come down to how much money you're going to make from your sale. So I think it's a case of, is it enough for you to retire? Is it enough for you to walk out the door and then never actually go back into work again, or actually use that money again, rather than it being you go down the route of, that you could sell. I sold my business last year, and that wasn't enough for me to retire. It was enough for me to live very comfortably, but it's a case of, but at the same time, I'm 46. I want another roll of the dice. I would be bored sitting around doing nothing.
You got another home run in your sort
That's
of thing.
it. And so, I felt that a new company was something that I wanted to do. And so I think that's the same with when you come round for, if you're going to exit and sell the business, is it that what are you going to do afterwards? Is that money enough for you to retire? My business partner was much older, and so it was his last roll of the dice, and he got the money that he wanted for him to exit. So I think that's how you've got to kind of think about it from a money perspective. I think a lot of businesses go into a sale without getting advice. And so what they then do is they then don't actually sell for the amount that they actually want to. They think their agency's worth a lot more than it is, not realising until they speak to a corporate finance person after they're planning on selling, and then find out that actually their agency's only worth half the amount that they actually want. And then they have to then make the decision, do they sell for that lower amount of money, or do they go in and actually then go, right, no, instead, I'm going to buy, I'm going to stay in the business for another 2 or 3 more years.
I now know what I need to work on.
That's it. And it's
frustratingly, if they'd have just had that conversation 2 years ago, they could have been working the last 2 years in that direction.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm working with a client at the moment. They're 10 months into their sale process, and I've been working with them on their sale process. If we'd done the sale 10 months ago, they wouldn't have achieved the money that we now are looking at, based on that, working with them over the last year on actually fixing the things that they thought were going to make them more saleable, that actually were the opposite way round. Right. Things like too much in the business, them as directors were doing too much in the business. Again, this comes down to outsourcing, things like that. If they are doing everything in the business, when someone comes to buy you, then actually you're not attractive, because the director potentially would have to stay on in the business. So it is setting that plan. It's a case of they didn't realise, that their business needed to show more growth for the sale in some respect. They thought that, well, we've done all the growth and people's now going to just buy it based on what it actually is now. Well, actually, someone wants to see that when they buy a business that it's going to continue to grow. And so, it's kind of, they kind of had stopped in some way, and it's all about kind of that growth pattern going forward. So, these are things that I'm working with all of my clients, so not just the ones that are selling. I do a lot of free sessions with new startup recruitment agencies. So part of me working with the Team Network, where they've obviously got a lot of new people coming in who are startups, and I'm offering a 2-hour free session with those guys. I've done 9 sessions with those guys so far, and all of them have come away and said, I didn't know that that's what I needed to do. And so they've come away with making sure
because the thing is, we were good billers, great billers, who decided to do it for ourselves.
Yeah,
that doesn't make us good business people.
No.
And that's the bit I think where...
Or it was already set up when you got there. So you were working for Michael Page, and Michael Page would have a legal department, it'd have a contracts department, so you don't have to worry about the legals and the contracts. You know, it'd have the funding in place, you don't need to find out where the funding comes from. And even things like, you know, understanding VAT and those kind of things. You know, a lot of what I'm doing with a lot of my new startups is getting them to understand their numbers. Most of them have never seen a P&L. Most of them have never seen a balance sheet. And understanding what a balance sheet and a P&L is, it's not doesn't mean that they're going to be suddenly a finance person and they're going to have suddenly change their business fundamentals.
But you need to be able to understand. You need to be able to look at something and go, that don't look right.
Yes.
There's an issue here, and I think this might be where it is. And then you might go to your accountant or a professional, but to sort of sit there blindly and be like, oh, my VAT bill's due in soon. Oh, what do you think it's going to be? I don't know.
No.
What do you mean you don't know? No. Like, you should be keeping track of this.
Well, that's what I find with a lot of recruitment agencies is that they, especially when they're probably the first 2 or 3 years, things like management accounts are non-existent.
Yeah.
They're not something that they would ask for. And if they get in a copy, they're looking to see how much profit they've made, not whether or not they've obviously, how that profit's made up and how it's working. Most of them are getting their VAT returns done, but not doing the management accounts. They're getting their year-end accounts, which are done pretty much within 9 months of the year end. So it's chip wrapper. It's basically, it's not worth the paper it's been written on because it's old news and you can't change anything really from that point. And so, my kind of, the way I'm kind of getting it with my clients, and it's really making a big difference for them, is actually getting them to move it towards monthly management accounts or quarterly management accounts. And then the basis of my meetings is the first 15, 20 minutes. We don't go into it as a big, massive part of the business. It's a case of look at where you've been. What mistakes did we make during that time? Did you over or underspend? Did you hit your target on your top line sales? Why didn't you? Or what you did right that actually made you better on number of contractors or something like that? And then we then start going, right, what's the target for the next quarter? And it really does then set them up to go, right, okay, if I want to take more money out, then actually you got to make more money.
Yeah.
It's a bit like us. It's a bit like when I do my projections, I always start with the bottom line. So I always start with, what do you want out of the business? Add back the corporation tax, add back your overheads.
Work it back.
This is then your sales. How your sales going to be made up. If it's all perm, you have to do that whole number as a perm. If it's contractors or if it's a mixture of contract and perm, how is that going to be split? And then how are you going to achieve that? If you're going to want to do £1 million worth on your perm line, you're only one person, and last year you did 250, you've got to have to take on some staff, so which might mean it affects the overheads, but it's working at it in the right way. And it's actually having a little bit of expertise where someone can actually make those for you. The thing I find is there's lots of accountants out there nowadays, but they're only doing the numbers. They're not actually giving you the help and advice that goes along with those numbers. And that's where people are then failing, because people don't know, as you said, VAT's coming up. How much is it? Well, I don't know. Well, VAT's normally this much. If your sales suddenly double, your VAT's going to be twice as much. It's a case of if your overheads are, start spiraling out of control because you don't know, you're looking at your cash in your bank. Well, cash in your bank is not the way to do it.
Getting excited at the cash position in the bank is not the way to do it.
Corporation tax is paid 9 to 12 months after the year ends. So it's a case of you could be holding on to all the corporation tax from the year before. You're looking at your bank account, you start spending on it. Suddenly you're going, I haven't got my corporation tax. And then it starts turning into payment plans and it all starts spiraling
Which
from
then
there.
again all impacts if your exit plan was to sell.
Well,
that then straight away
it's a liability.
Your accounts, you haven't run your accounts properly. I'm sorry, the multiples that you're looking at, not for us.
No, exactly. Or they would downgrade the price because they'd say there's a potential liability that they don't know about. And you don't want to downgrade your price. You want to increase your price. You want it to be that it's based on, you're on government contracts, so your multiple maybe goes up by another 1 or 2. You're on PSLs with large clients, that then increase it. You're a perm business, start bolting on contract business because that will increase your multiple as well. All of these kind of things that just needs you to do earlier, not later. It needs to be
Yeah,
part of your
okay.
plan. You can't just turn around and say, right, I'm going to do contract business tomorrow, and then that's going to increase my multiple for when I sell in 2 months' time. So,
But do you know how many times I've heard that though with like 2-3 man businesses that I speak to, and they're like, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. I'm just going to do temp.
yeah,
If it was easy as I'm just going to do temp, why are you not already doing it?
No.
Like you sort of, there's no plan there. There's no like, you got to really be able to go, okay, yeah, I see the value. I need to look at a temp market.
Yep.
And now I need to map that out, figure out how I'm going to do that, put a business plan together,
Yep.
a mini plan together.
That's it.
To actually achieve it. So it sounds like the common mistakes that we're talking about here are kind of not having a strategy or a business plan, not knowing your numbers.
Yep.
And in process, not prioritizing process enough, right?
That's it.
And these are kind of like essentially like the boring things. Right?
Yeah.
The fun thing is to be like, I want to open a business. Let's go open a business bank account.
That's it.
Let's get the social
Let's
set up.
let's
do the
do
logo.
as many deals
Yeah.
as we possibly
Yeah.
can. But yeah, it's a case of I had someone the other day, and they were kind of sort of saying, I'm going to do 200 grand this year on perm, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they were saying that their overheads were like only £1,000 a month, and I'm like, you're not getting the correct tax advice. Really, your business, I reckon, is costing you more than £1,000. But what they were doing was they were using their own money and scared of putting it through the business because they wanted to make their business look as big as possible. But they're just going to end up paying a large corporation tax bill. And what it was is they hadn't had the advice from their accountant. You could tell it was going to cost them more than that to have their accountant for the whole year in some respects. It just didn't seem to make sense. And what it is, again, as I said, this is where accountants are doing the numbers but not giving the advice on the numbers. They're not having meetings with people to actually do it. Quite often I'm finding as well that I'm finding recruiters or recruitment directors are doing their own books. They're being given a Xero license or a QuickBook license by their accountant, half an hour's worth of training, and saying, you fill it in, we'll check it, and then we'll submit your VAT returns and we'll do your year-end accounts.
And charge you for the privilege.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, recruiters are not accountants. Xero and QuickBooks does not teach you how to do VAT correctly. It doesn't make sure, I've had people where they put VAT on every expense because Xero didn't tell them you couldn't. And it's those kind of things that you need to make sure you're doing right. But in the past, it was you would divorce your wife before you got rid of your accountant.
Yeah.
Nowadays, accountants, it's just another service.
Yeah.
But a service that's actually dropped, and it's not been to the right levels for quite a long time, unless there's the specialists in the market. The one thing I would say about the recruitment industry and the recruitment suppliers in the back office and accountancy side, if you get one of those, they are going to be looking after you from that kind of perspective. They know that recruiters are not accountants.
I wonder how much of it is from the. So I had this conversation with a guy called Morgan Davies he's one of the directors at a local practice around here called Prime. And they've got sort of 5 offices throughout the Midlands, sizable firm, do some really cool stuff. And I remember having this conversation with him because I was sort of like, the problem you've got is that you can't sort of break this image of being bean counters if all you're going to do is count the beans.
Yeah.
Right? Businesses are crying out for, tell me what management accounts is, help me with financial analysis.
Yeah.
Give me tax advice, give me business advice.
Yeah.
Nurture my business to help it grow. But if you're an accountancy practice that's kind of a one-size-fits-all, listen, whether you're a plaster, a plumber, a driver, an Uber driver, a recruitment business owner, or an e-commerce business, we'll do your accounts.
Yeah.
Well, you've not really, you don't know enough about any of those markets to be able to effectively go, do you know what? These recruiters, they're sat on something here. This person that I've got here who's turning over 200K, well, I could help her probably get up to 450, 500.
Yeah.
And a lot more in terms of structure and stuff.
That's it.
Because all this person needs is a bit of a, hey, did you think about this? What about this? Let's invest in this, put some of your time in that.
I think again, it comes down to time. Recruiters should be using their time to do. I'd much rather my clients sit on the phone making more placements than sitting on the phone chasing their clients for money.
Yes.
I'd much rather they're actually, on their computer sending emails, not doing bookkeeping and invoicing.
Yeah.
Those are things that they shouldn't be doing. And that is unfortunately where some recruitment directors are sitting. And it's the wrong way of doing it. I'm not
That's
saying
not
don't be in your numbers.
No, but that's not CEOing your business.
No, definitely not. No, it's turning you still to be a small company.
Yeah.
And you don't need to, some people say, well, it's easier for me to raise the invoice myself. Why? Yeah. You're going to send it to the client. So the person who does the deal is then going to send the invoice to the client, and then what? You're going to then ring the client up and actually chase the money as well. So you're automatically to your clients looking like you're a small company. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you do the deal, you outsource the invoicing, you then have a different person in that outsourcing company doing the credit control, and then it's all then making your company look much larger. And so outsourcing should definitely be the way to go. It's a bit like your IT infrastructure. You wouldn't go out and get an IT contractor to sit in your office all day long to fix your IT system every single day. You'd only need someone at an outsource IT company. HR is another one as well. The likes of some of the HR companies out there use that service rather than having a internal HR person. You don't need
or upskilling a member of staff to you're admin and HR and finance.
Well, that's it. Then that's probably even more dangerous as well from a liability perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's keeping up with the what's the rules and regulations that go along with that. So I would much rather for a lot of the stuff I've been doing with my clients recently has been where they've been doing it either internally or using providers which haven't been right for them, or they've had internal staff doing invoicing. Right. So one of my clients, I went and saw them. They're a really good client of mine. I went in and they had an internal person who was doing their invoicing. One of their recruitment consultants was also doing a part of it as well. So he was doing the payments and the liaison with the invoice finance company. And I went in, I did a full analysis of their back office and their accounts and all their processes on actually making a placement. And we now moved them to an outsourced back office and accounts provider. The accounts are much better because the quality of where they were before was really, really poor. They were getting quarterly management accounts, now it's monthly management accounts, set out in a proper way. And when I looked at the full savings that we'd done, because we got rid of the person who was doing the invoicing, we saved them £55,000. And it's quite a significant saving for them to get better numbers, for them to make sure that obviously their invoicing is still done on time. It's all done out of the office, so it's not like piles of timesheets around the office that the director's looking at going, have they been raised or not? They're getting their credit controls being done much better. The invoice finance company's much happier with them. Overall, the cash flow's starting to come in, and they've made a £55,000 saving at the same time.
That's nuts, isn't it? There's that much money that's just been left on the table just by not knowing your processes and stuff. Interesting. Now, you've got an ebook that people can kind of download and go through, right?
Yeah.
Can you, there's your chance to plug it, basically.
Yeah.
The camera, go for it.
On my website, I've got a number of guides. One of them is the 10 common errors that new startup recruitment agency directors make. So that one is a really good one for not just people who are thinking about starting a recruitment agency and thinking, well, I don't want to make those errors. I've actually found and spoken to a number of existing recruitment directors, and they want to make sure that they're not continuing to make those errors. Yeah. Or actually, some of them actually use it a bit of a laugh and a tick box to actually say, did I make any of those? And
did that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got 10 out of 10.
So that one's a really good one. I do have another one coming out in early January as well, which is how to start a recruitment agency. So it's a kind of a step-by-step guide. So that's for the new startup. So it will give some hints and tips in there as well. So, but yeah, there's other guides I've got on my website, and I'm producing them at the moment, kind of one a quarter. And it's a case of that. I think that's a better way for recruitment directors to learn is not for it to be, for them to get a big massive book and sit there reading it. These are nice, just 10, 12 page guides that make it nice and easy for people to kind of get the information they need. But yeah, also, if I've got a lot of my clients have come from my first 2 hour session, which really does kind of, we sit there and we go through everything. And in that 2 hours, people come away. Sometimes I don't win them immediately as a client. Sometimes it's a case of that they come back to me in 6 months' time and say, Stuart, now I think is the right time for you. And that the sessions that I do with my clients are to make sure that they're doing it right. They're making sure that their finances are in order, that they understand their finances, and that they're actually going to be, hopefully, on that track to sell, do an MBO, EOT or something like that in the future.
Well, that 2 hours is well spent, regardless, right? From a business owner's point of view, it's an investment of 2 hours of your time to know what you are doing wrong, but also actually validate some of the stuff, the decisions that you have made.
That's it, yeah. As I said, my sessions quite often become a bit of an agony aunt kind of the sessions, which is really nice, and then they become more invested in me and I become more invested in them. It's a case of it becomes a bit of a no holds barred kind of session, rather than it being a session where, where they kind of feel it is structured, but it doesn't have that kind of finite structure of, right, we must stick to this and we can't talk outside that. And I think that's sometimes where, some people kind of go, I can't go past this, I can't do this. It's a case of, for me, I just want these agencies to succeed. I want the recruitment industry to have some really good, successful recruitment agencies. And there's plenty of potential to do that. And I think that's, I don't think that's going to stop. I think the recruitment industry is always going to keep on growing. It's always great when you see the number of, 8,000 odd new startup recruitment agencies every year on Companies House. If you look at the numbers, that's really good. The numbers that I've seen on my clients with turnover, yes, it has been a tough year. I think last year was tougher. This year's got better. Obviously, we've got next year to come. That's going to be an interesting one based on obviously what happened in the budget with the employers' national insurance going up. But I think that in some ways that might, and with the new workers' rights that are coming out as well, I think those two factors will have an impact, but it might have an impact on whether or not there's more temp and contract business because of the day one rights for a permanent staff member. It's whether or not, obviously, on the other side, whether the employer's national insurance might shrink the temp businesses because of, obviously, the increase in cost for minimum wage and the increase in employer's national insurance.
Cost of employment, yeah.
So both of those, it might have a knock-on effect on perm. As I said, it might be more looking towards contract and temp. But then on the other side, you've got the employer's national insurance. Are both of them going to have a positive effect or a negative effect? No one really knows at the moment. The numbers haven't yet been properly run. It's going to be when industry starts seeing that increase in wage bills. That's when I think it's really going to have that next effect. So,
well, that's I think that'll be a good next episode to go through.
Yeah,
and sort of let the dust settle a little bit, and when we're into 2025, we'll pick up again and do that. Look, I want to thank you for we're about out of time, but I want to thank you for that. That's been really, really informative. What's the website? It'll be in the description below, but it's
Mayachi.com, mayachi.co.uk. So yeah,
perfect. And you're open to people connecting with you on LinkedIn as well, right?
Definitely, yeah. Connect to me. I've got lots of connections on my LinkedIn, so it's nicer when people connect to me.
Amazing, cool. Look, thank you so much for this. Appreciate it. That's it for another episode. We'll see you again next Wednesday. New episodes drop every Wednesday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and most other podcasting platforms. We'll see you again next week. Thank you very much. Mate, appreciate this.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
That was good.
Lovely.
It was bang on 45 minutes.